Yeah. Stepping in the spot like she own it. Looking like the world is your runway. She can set it off like a gunplay. Oh my. Yeah. Talk of the city with that body. Always getting praised like it's Sunday. She said, baby, what you gonna do?
Hey there. Welcome back to Try Foolery. I'm so excited to welcome you guys back in with us this week. Welcome back to a good place to be, a great place to be, getting to chill with my tribe and me. Come on back, y'all. And so, I'm really excited this week. I'm Tom.
Amanda.
Candy.
Shakira.
I'm so excited because this week we're doing an episode about something a little less foolery, but a little more tribe. However, not just our tribe. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Black community as a tribe, right? Okay, and so this episode is about Juneteenth.
Yes! Woo!
I'm not quite sure, but I think by the time this episode is seen, we should be the week before or the week after Juneteenth. And since we are so close, we're going to talk about what is Juneteenth. And do you celebrate Juneteenth? Do we celebrate Juneteenth? And I'm going to give you the answer to that right now. I don't know about you and your tribe, but me and my tribe,
Baby.
we celebrate Juneteenth.
Yes.
And so we're going to tell y'all a little bit about
I don't remember
that.
any of them.
That's a problem.
Oh, my goodness.
It's your fault, Miss Heavy Pour.
Girl, I be splashing.
Really?
Go ahead. Continue.
You do?
We're not going to lie on Juneteenth. That's not what we going to do.
We're not going to lie.
See, look, they already trying to bring the foolery into my educational episode.
Sorry.
This ain't about the foolery today.
Okay, no foolery.
Okay.
Seriousness.
I don't know how
Always.
to do
I know.
You gotta
I
practice.
know.
You gotta practice.
Okay.
You learn from me and Amanda.
See the foolery. Exactly what I mean. Exactly what I mean. Okay, so Juneteenth, as it said, basically is June 19th, right?
Yes.
So my question to you ladies is, what do we already know of Juneteenth? And then I'm gonna go right behind you and share a little bit more about it, of course.
Can I be honest?
Yes, please.
So I didn't know about Juneteenth, like for real, until I moved to Texas.
Yeah.
Because, growing up in New Orleans, we didn't learn about any of this. Like, we learned about the Confederate Army. We went to the battles. We did all of this stuff. And we learned about slavery through a really rose-colored glass lens now that I look back at it. And it really wasn't until I moved to Texas that I learned anything about Juneteenth. I was like, what do you mean? What's a Juneteenth?
that.
Facts. My parents didn't even know about it until I brought it to their attention, because we definitely did. They even took us to fucking
The plantations and shit?
Yes, like Jefferson Davis plantation. I'm just like, really? But his wife was black. I know I showed y'all that picture. She's black. I don't know what y'all say. She's black.
Wow.
She was. She was
Yeah,
definitely
I've
black.
visited many plantations
But I think-
living in Louisiana.
But I think the reason why is definitely a bigger thing, or maybe why we learned it in Texas. One is, I think a lot of things nowadays, they're putting out a lot of history that wasn't normally taught in school,
Right.
especially as we were growing up. So that exposure, as well as the fact that Juneteenth originated in Texas.
Exactly.
So it would make sense for you to know it from Texas, learn it in Texas.
yeah.
So, just like everybody else, I knew nothing. I was born and partially raised in Kansas.
Dorothy.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry. No
She used
foolery. I'm
no
sorry.
foolery.
I forgot.
You're
I
good.
forgot.
You're good.
gonna be
but I
hard.
tried to educate myself a little bit, like how slavery ended, but
Yeah.
the people in the South didn't know for a lot longer later. So,
Yeah. I think that there's definitely something to that, of course, being where you grew up and lived, but then also how the message of not being enslaved anymore migrated definitely affected how and who celebrates Juneteenth, right? And I do think, to what you said, Candy, about people learning more about history now. And recently we did an episode about online dating, and to kind of correlate, I asked in that episode about if being able to be online gives you more access in the dating world. I think being able to be online gives us more access to history that we weren't able to previously see or read or learn in school, which is probably why they're trying to ban everything that they could ban right now.
That facts.
Because they ain't shit.
So
No foolery.
That wasn't foolery. That was seriousness.
That was real though.
That was dead ass.
Anytime you're trying to get rid of a whole agenda about African American culture and studies and feminism and LGBTQ
and
plus,
not being
honestly,
able
all
to
of that stuff.
make people that's not black feel bad.
Right.
First of all, honestly, I don't even know why that surprises people, because if you think about it, like, they're trying to ban that now, but it really was not there when we were growing up. I don't, like, the things that I learned about Black history was definitely not in fucking school.
I think
Like,
that's
yeah,
why.
exactly.
But I think now
learned
they're
it
like,
outside
it's
of
way
school.
too much access. There's way too much that you can actually learn. These kids are actually tuned in
Yeah.
to social media as opposed to how tuned in you might be in a classroom.
Right.
And so now they're like, oh no. But something has to stop. Something has to
But my
give.
thing is, I don't think that that's a thing now that they're making that agenda. It's always been their agenda,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. Like,
It's
it was
just more
never
in the
there for us to
forefront.
learn. Right. And because we didn't have, and like, of course, in our day and age, internet, like, access was not as big as it is now.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't have things at a click of a hand or waiting on somebody else to teach it to us.
We learned at home.
right.
Most of it.
Right. Right.
Like
So,
my punishment was write an essay. That would be my punishment at home.
Yeah.
So it would literally be like pick
I like that. Honestly.
Oh, you
I'd
like
be
that?
pissed
I
off.
do.
I would be pissed. I ain't writing shit.
I'd be like, well, say less.
Nah.
Hold on.
No, I would write all
Let me
They
tell you
wanted-
about what's happening in my
They
imagination.
Okay, well, in
My
that
dad
case,
and
I
my
had some great
stepmom wanted a
scripts.
3-page single spaced.
Okay, well, that's different.
Mind you, I'm like 6th grade, 4th grade. This is what's happening for my punishment.
I only got
But
2.5.
3-page, single spaced, and don't try to repeat yourself, and don't try to plagiarize. But that's when they didn't have that little thing where you could put
It
the
says-
essay in
yeah.
there and it show. So I'm like, I ain't gonna plagiarize. Lies. Sorry, Dad and Ma.
If you're watching
But,
this,
yeah,
I was
they'd be
original in
like,
finding the plagiarized stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, like
Remix.
George Washington Carver was one of the essays that I did, and
Speaking of that, remind me to bring that back.
and Madam C.J. Walker, that was an essay. It was just like our parents had to teach us, and unfortunately, my mom didn't know as much either, because it's like then you didn't really learn that. You have to literally, and it
gotta go
wasn't
look for
online then neither. If you
Right.
think about
gotta
it,
go in the
you gotta go
libraries.
to the library.
In
You
the
gotta
stacks.
look for the book, and then you gotta get real deep and look for the book, and then to reference stuff. It
Yeah.
Like on the
It's
what's the real thing where you have to go look up the articles and stuff, and it's a mess. Like it was trying to find stuff used to be
It was
Very
difficult, but
interesting.
even so, though, trying to find stuff then, it wasn't, the information really wasn't out there
right.
for
you
you.
had to look
like,
for it.
like you had to you had to find like some type of I guess you would say Black business
Yeah.
that actually had that information that was put out there.
Programs,
Yeah,
after
programs.
school programs, church programs,
Right.
things like that.
Because that's why I really learned that, because one of my aunts, she was big on that, and she made us learn every goddamn thing. But when, like you were saying, like how they try to take stuff out of school, and then you brought up
George
George Washington
Washington
Carver, it made me think of my child,
It's almost gone.
because she decided to do a book report on him, like, because it like was this last year, like each month or so they would have to do different reports, or like presentations for history, and so she picked him. And which wasn't an issue, but like, so the questions like that you have to answer during your presentation is, why did you choose? Why did you choose to write about this
Because you
topic or
asked
this
me to do an essay.
person?
I found him.
And my daughter's presentation, they asked her the question, well, why did you choose it? And her response was, because y'all don't teach enough about Black history in here, so I'm teaching you what my history is.
Oh my. Oh my. Where'd she
look,
get that
I'm here
from?
for that new generation.
She get it from my
I was
mama.
like,
She get it from my mom, for real. Get it from my mama.
She get it from my
Don't
mama.
act like it, Sister Soldier.
she got it from her aunties. But go ahead.
Lordy.
Continue with your question.
So
I don't think
I'm
we answered your question, honestly. We just said that we didn't.
Well, y'all didn't. I asked, where did you learn? Or
Okay. I thought you asked what we knew about it, because I don't think we answered
Yeah, what
that.
did you know about it? But I think the same goes for me. I learned definitely during the time that I was living here in Texas as opposed to previous to this point. I don't recall ever hearing about it in school. I went to a HBCU. I don't really recall having that celebration then. However, I didn't really do a lot of events. So there very well could have been one, and I could have missed it. And so just in being able to kind of get this idea that we're not taught about it, most of us did not learn about it until we got here. So I'm just going to share with you guys what I currently know about Juneteenth. So Juneteenth obviously is equated with, or is, June 19th. We're going to talk specifically about 1865. So we're going to take it back, way back. We're going to take it back into time. And we're going to talk a little bit about why it's important and how I'm sure that even though we didn't know about it, I'm sure that you guys have celebrated it in one way or the other. Okay? So June 19th, 1865 is basically our Emancipation Day. It's our Freedom Day. It's our 4th of July, should you, look at it that way. It's the day that we celebrate actually having been told that we were no longer enslaved people. What's interesting about that is the document that allowed us to be free people, was actually declared 1863.
I think it was 2 years prior.
2 years prior. And then we didn't find out here in Texas, or specifically in Galveston, it had not reached that particular point until 1865. So they were basically the last people to actually get word, and I believe it's General Order 3, that they were now free people.
But honestly, I don't even think that part is true. That's just the only part they're telling us in history, because there was still plenty of places that there were a lot of blacks that did not know that they were free. They were considered free.
No, for sure. I watched a Vice report where a man still lived on his owner's land in Mississippi or Alabama. Still lived on his owner's land. They didn't have the relationship that we know from movies and TVs about master, enslaved person, whatever. However, it was still very much so subordinate or inferior to superior kind of relationship. And this man had no idea. However, when we went to Mississippi for your dad's birthday, me and Shakira rode up into somebody's property and I was like, girl, back up. We need to leave. I don't know where we are. And I could easily see how you could miss a lot if you live in a very rural place. Something else to note about this time is that if you're not reading, there is no internet. If the newspaper isn't something that I'm telling you to go ahead and grab and learn about, then if I could keep this information from you and you are creating a product for me, or you are bringing in wealth to my world or my life or my family, then likely I'm withholding this information. I'm aware. You're not aware.
Right.
And so I'm going to withhold that information and continue to get you to work out there in my spaces. This is really pissing me off.
But I was about to say, think about the movie Alice. That is based on a true story. Like, that was what, the 60s?
I don't remember the time period, but it definitely gave the 70s.
Well, it might have been the 70s. I don't know. I could be all the way wrong with the time frame. However, that was based on a true story, that because they were so far off, they had no access to anything, and they were still so you can't tell me that. Granted, we are explaining Juneteenth, but there were so many people after that clearly did not know that they was free.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that it's all intentional, or that it
was intentional?
I'm trying to keep myself
together. Like I stated previously, I'm always the person with the what if, or I always go beyond, and think sometimes it wasn't always intentional.
No, that shit was intentional.
Man, fuck them people. It was.
My opinion.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me finish your opinion, 'cause I need to understand why you don't think it was
let
intentional.
her tell her opinion.
I need to understand.
I don't think that every single time that it was intentional. Do I think like shit it was literally slowly trickled down? Yes. Do I think 2 years it shouldn't have been a trickle down? Yes. But do I think like it was people in very rural areas that
didn't get the
information? Yes, I do think it was that. Sometimes, all the time, no.
Well,
but because even like me living in Kansas, my music was NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, because it was mainstream. I never heard a rap song until I moved to Texas. This is me at
my goodness.
fucking 8 years old. I'm serious. I had never heard a rap song.
Okay.
I had heard Jamaican music.
Let her finish. Okay, hold on.
I'm about to say it. I'm sorry.
But it's not going to change my opinion.
I'm not trying to change your opinion.
But it's because I've lived that I'm like, okay, possibly. Yeah. Only a possible. Not that I'm not dumb to the fact that I think a lot of it was intentional.
That people can be greedy.
Yeah, people are greedy, people are rude, people are evil. I'm very hip to that. But I guess because I'm just that person that's like, okay, I'm not always going to 100% believe that every single person in the world is evil.
Yeah.
If you own a slave, you did. You are. So,
what'd you say?
If you own a slave, you are. Because you shouldn't think that there's no ownership over any person, period. And, but
wait, we're going to have this conversation later.
Well, and the ownership that I mean by is like enslaving that person, right? And having them be in servitude to you.
Yeah.
For nothing. So,
yeah.
The only reason I would have to say that I disagree, and it has nothing to do with trying to change your mind. I completely understand where you're coming from as far as saying that you had only limited access to certain things, right? Mm-hmm. And like, so we relate, like granted, I may have had a lot of access to like rap and different things like that back at home, but there was still a lot of music that I was unaware of or that we got late because of the area that we were in. Yeah. However, if you were in a position to where you owned a slave, financially you were in a better state because poor white people didn't own slaves. They couldn't afford to own slaves. Mm-hmm. So that means you were in a better state, which means that you had that access, you had that knowledge. Like versus I can understand if it was like you weren't in a space to where you couldn't get it, you had that access, you had that knowledge, and I'm keeping my money. I'm keeping whatever it is like to keep me the way, like whether it be I want to keep you for my own personal servitude to keep me up here on this fucking pedestal or my money makers.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to pay you. But I think that by saying like because you had certain access to certain things, because I'm pretty sure people who were, I'm sure, like people that was in my hometown that were a little bit more wealthier, they still had a way bigger knowledge base than what we were exposed to because they had access to outside of this area because they were in a position to do so. So people who actually enslaved people were wealthy, so they had a lot of access to outside knowledge. They just didn't give a fuck. And they can croak over.
Well, they have croaked over, most of them. So, Amanda, do you? I want to come back to both of those things. But Amanda, did you have a thought, an opinion? You have a beautiful smile happening, but
no, I'm just. I think I understand both sides, but I think for me, where it's like the thing is with slavery, you know what you're doing, Like, there's no, what is it, cognitive bias or dissonance where you disconnect. You know that you have a person that is under you that you are not paying. You are expecting them to produce a product, and you don't want to get rid of that. Why? Because you might not be the richest person, but you making money off of that person, and it's like you can't tell me that for some selfish reason that they're not going to tell that person, especially if they know that, okay, I'm in this rural area. I don't have to say anything, and I'm not going to. And they'll never know. Yeah. Because you've already limited the fact if we can read, that the news that we have access to, you've already controlled the situation to a point where they don't have access.
It could be very hard.
And yet you still do it, and you still allow it, even though you know that morally, even though you stand on your Christian faith, morally, it's not right.
Another topic.
Sorry,
But that's a whole nother.
I to laugh at that.
No, but it's real. Because it's like there's so many people, and Lord knows I love God. Not that. But there are so many people that do things in the name of God, Christ.
That's not of him.
Not of him. And that's not what he even ordained.
I
or
think
even
now
thought.
I'm just saying stuff to piss y'all off. Isn't that like some part in the Bible? Like slave follow your master or something?
Yep, that's
like
in the first
and then they got-
that first in the Old Testament.
But then they got the hell up out of there when they were slaves in Egypt. Like,
Yeah, they were allowed to have slaves, and then they were allowed to be freed, and then that's a whole nother topic.
but even like on the African side of it, right? Like, let's bring it there because everybody always wants to talk about, oh, okay, well, Africans had slaves too. They did, but it was a difference. It wasn't this servitude of you do and you get nothing in return. Like
it was indentured servitude.
It was indentured servitude,
is
and then
completely
you had the option
different
to come into the community and come into the fold if you were captured. They had no idea that the bullshit that was going on in the U.S. or in the Caribbean or wherever else we were dropped off was happening
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's sorry.
Welcome.
So I want. She has a theme word this episode. It starts with an F.
That's how I feel about
It will start with an F. I think to your point, and I kind of wanted to ask this before I go back to what Shakira said. Do you think that it could be, granted, pure selfishness, right? Obviously. But could it have been such a norm that there was no need for cognitive dissonance? This is how this world works, and everyone around it and in it understands that.
But there's still a point where right is right and wrong is wrong. Even though it may be the social norm, there's a point in yourself that okay, this isn't right. And I mean, you can program yourself to think that way, but it's still not. It doesn't make it right.
If the social norm is to go jump off a cliff and follow the leader, you go fucking do it?
Well, yeah, a lot of those people did, right? And then very few decided that, no, I can see that this is wrong. Let me at least try and assist, right? So there
Jumping
was
off the
some
cliff?
people,
I'm talking about literally jump off the fucking cliff.
Right. And if we're comparing it to being a slaver, then a lot of people did decide that was the cliff they wanted to jump off. And they thought so because it was to their benefit. However, some people was able to see that something about this is not right. And when I mention it being a social norm, I mean, yes, we have this inferiority complex, but also these aren't people, right? So I didn't view you as another human being, or they didn't view us as another human being. They viewed us as some part human, whatever, 3/5 of a person kind of thing, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean.
They feared us. That's what
And so it's a really weird dichotomy in that. To kind of go back to your particular point about it not always being completely intentional, I do think that for the way in which it got down to here last, this was after the Civil War. Yeah. And so they're not calling around or posting it on the news, bam,
They're on horses.
Everybody go and tell. They going from state to state on horse buggy to state to say,
And then those
let me
state
tell
lines
you what's happening.
Were blocked too. So in some areas it was blocked off. The ones that were, I view as the real 100% evilest of the evil, they were trying to block those people from coming and telling as well.
Yeah, of course, because that's basically, and other people might argue that, but that's what the war was about. So we want to know who was going to actually allow, or they want to be able to keep their slaves. Who was going to be able to keep their slaves and who was not.
The war was definitely about keeping the slaves or not keeping the slaves. However, it was about the money behind keeping the slaves.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Yeah. And I think that just kind of goes back to, and to kind of sum that up, I think that both are very possible. That I'm being 100% selfish about this, but also this message is coming around quite fucking slowly.
I think,
if it's ever reaching some
thing,
places.
Right. I get that. However, I think that if the message itself saying that's getting around slowly, right? Everybody knew the war was going on.
Yeah, and
So
they were
the war
waiting.
had been
Slaves
going-
were waiting to hear the word. Okay, did it
the
end?
slaves not knowing. But my thing is that they knew the white folks.
Oh no, slavers knew. I mean, 100% selfishness with them. They knew.
I'm not talking about
This
like,
is my
when
money.
I say
Why would I?
Right. I'm talking about the like slavers. No, I'm not. The slaves. No, I'm not referring to them not like being intentionally like staying or whatever. I'm referring to strictly the slavers. Like they knew the war was going on. They knew what the fuck the war was about. And honestly, they knew it was about to get that ass whooped. But I'm saying like for them, like even if it was after, right? Like even if they were waiting to get certain messages, they knew. Like, because they will be the ones first to know they lost the damn war.
Right.
So they knew that what comes with that, even though they may not have passed on the message officially to them, they knew what comes with that because that's what the war was about. You lost. What does that mean? You don't have no more fucking slaves.
Yeah. But I mean, you also got to think about asking an individual who has yet to show a shred of morality or give a fuck to be morale and say, well, I lost. Let me just go ahead and take my L and put it down.
They're not.
Or let me pass
very
it
unlikely
on to these people that were willing to, you know, free their slaves or pay their slaves or, you know, so slavery in itself, I don't agree with slavery, but do I think the message was like,
yeah,
I think it was very intentional
a little slow
to hold it back.
And it was very shitty intentions, but these are people who I wouldn't have deemed to have ever really had good intentions, right? Yep. And so I want to know from you guys, what do you think people did when they did find out, when they were able to acknowledge that they were now free people?
I think
tried to keep it going.
I don't think some people
I think they tried to keep it going, tried to keep the slave, like...
You mean the slaves?
No, I mean slaves. I don't mean the people who were enslaved.
Oh,
not...
I think that a few probably originally left. I don't think all left. And my reasoning for saying that, because you control the mind, you control the body. Yeah. So if you're fearing what is out there and they know what to expect, a lot of people don't move because of fear. They rather stay still, stay with the evil I know rather than what I don't know. Right. And so I think initially probably a lot did stay. And then I think that like there's a few of course left, but I think it trickled along that like after like it became a fuck it moment. But I don't think that initially they just up and ran.
I don't think they knew what to do, because it's like, okay, like this is the life I've known all this time for years, and then somebody tells me I'm free.
Yeah.
What do I do with
there's
that?
There's no programs. There's no indoctrination into society.
There's no reparations.
There's nothing.
I can't
so what
read.
do I
can't do all of these things for myself to actually function in a society that wasn't meant for me to function in. So I think a lot of them may have froze. Not, no judgment there for sure, but I think a lot of them may have froze, but it comes with time.
And then a lot of people fear the unknown.
Facts. Right. And then people just today fear the unknown in general. Right. So, and they're frozen in their tracks.
Beings, like, they fear the unknown. So,
because the natural response to what is fight or flight.
I low-key think people is like, you said what? Right. Fuck this shit. All right, well, I don't know where I'm going, but I ain't doing this.
I do.
Right.
Last week, like when you was up here trying to slap up on me,
right?
You better go. You better go today.
I definitely think there were people that did that, but the only reason I could see that wasn't, I think we may have a lot that probably stayed over the ones that said,
for sure,
fuck it, I'm not like bye. But
sharecroppers,
right? Because that's right. Because they're very common, and like a lot of them, they stay with what they know. Well, this is all I know. I know how to work with my hands. I don't know anything else. I can't read. I can't do it. I know how to work with my hands. Like even if it's a little bit of nothing, I'd rather stay here with what I already know, or my person, because I'm definitely not using that M word, isn't that bad to me. So let me just stay here.
I had to think about what you was talking about for a second.
Yeah. And then also, like you also had those people who, I don't want to use the term Uncle Tom, because we found out that Uncle Tom, that wasn't even
it wasn't a true story.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't a true story. So,
or at least not the way that it was put.
Right. Everybody. Well, he is definitely there, but definitely not one of those. But the type of person I'm talking about, the stigma. So the person I'm talking about, those people, they had plenty of those who I'm pretty sure they didn't go no fucking where.
It's a good point.
What's the man in Django? What's the one that Samuel?
It was
L.
Samuel Jackson played.
I don't remember his
Yeah.
name.
But his character
there
wanted to
was
maybe
a
whip
lot-
his ass.
Yeah. But I'm sure that there were
He did
people
great,
like that
though.
because they knew how to get
They
along
were,
to
they
move
were.
on, and it's like
Yeah. They assimilated
It was
into what it was.
survival tactic.
Yeah. I think that is very interesting. I do think a lot of people did probably pick up and it was like, we'll figure it out. But I could imagine some people staying not just on let me just stay here just to stay here. Some surely, but some being fed stories about, okay, well, I'll give you this in exchange for that. And maybe even never receiving it. And some may be receiving
I'll pay
a
you
little bit of work.
15 cents.
Right.
Yeah. Girl, that
A
15,
week.
They weren't paying for
And
this,
not
but
knowing
less
any
than
better.
15.
A week.
I mean, in all fairness, not knowing any better, but also if I've never had anything,
That's something.
you can
It's
bet
everything.
that I'm going to know how to build with this little bit that I get.
Exactly.
Or at least know where to use it so that I can build more. And so my thought is that some people was like, shit, I'm out. And they got out and they went and they figured out how to do things that they can do for themselves. I also think that people were like, where my family at? Like,
Yeah.
where
yeah,
am
so
I?
I'm gonna
And I
look for
think
their
that if
family.
they left for anything, it was, I need to find a way to find my son or my husband or my wife or whatever that was.
Yeah. Oof. I couldn't even imagine because it's like, where do you even start?
Legit. I don't know this land, this area. I haven't been taught anything about it. And likely people are still being chased down regardless of whether or not this war had ended.
Uh-huh.
Hell,
It was really, it when you look at it, it looks like a catch-22 completely.
Oh, it
it
definitely
is. It
was.
is. It still is.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
still
in a
is.
different. It's just in a
Different
different
form.
format. But still.
Facts.
Yeah. So I know that we celebrated, right?
Of course.
Are there any ways that, and I told y'all I was going to bring this up to y'all, but are there any ways that you believe that you may have celebrated it previous to us having the celebration?
Family reunions.
Yes.
I truly feel like family reunions was an unconscious way of us celebrating
Yes.
that togetherness and that because like when you go to a black family reunion,
You be
a
like Cousin
vibe,
Lucky. Or you be Cousin Lucky. You ain't even in the family, but we could believe it.
But you in the family today, and everybody got their t-shirts, and it's like it's the most blackest, vibiest thing ever, and it's
Yeah.
like it's just a moment of connection,
Yeah.
and fun and celebration. And sometimes there's some fuck shit because we all got them cousins.
For sure.
Yeah.
Or family members that will bring the bullshit.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's still, it's that communal coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And when we celebrate it, I feel like it's very much a reunion because shit, we see people from everybody's families that come and hang out. And even though we might not all be blood related, we're still family.
Family.
So.
For y'all, are there any other ways that you think about it?
Definitely agree with the family reunion for sure. I also think that before we even officially started celebrating Juneteenth together, like we were celebrating it together because we are always coming together and doing things in representation of our blackness, our culture. Like even when it comes to the games that we play or different things like that. And we are definitely always going down rabbit holes about history
Don't say we.
of our people.
Don't say we.
We. I said
Don't
we.
say we.
We. So we go down.
Speaking French.
We all go down that but I'm just saying like we do all talk about like our history whether we are celebrating Juneteenth or not, and we're learning and educating each other whether it be our history or even our current history in the making. Like we are always celebrating us, and because I think Juneteenth is not just about that day, it's about understanding our freedom. Like we got to know that we are free, so understanding our freedom, so celebrating our blackness, celebrating our culture in general is us being free to do so. So I think us coming together, that's definitely
Any
Um,
thoughts? Any things? Anyways, and I'm for sure both you and Candy have celebrated the other couple of ways that I'm thinking about.
what's up.
yeah,
Before-
I'm gonna
No, you're
say
fresh out?
Nah.
Okay.
I didn't
Okay.
start like truly celebrating it, knowing what I'm celebrating, taking the time to step back.
I think that's the difference. I
Yeah,
think the
like
knowing.
taking the time to recognize what that day means, because with any other holiday, we take the time to step back and realize what we're celebrating in that moment.
Oh, girl, do we?
And
No, I don't think so.
I take
I know.
like
Girl,
for Christmas, I take a step back and I reflect on what I'm celebrating in that moment.
Because I never took a step back for Christmas.
And then
I was like, where is this money coming from?
and then for like, I really hate that spot. I stopped calling Thanksgiving because of the badness behind it. So I just call it a celebration of thankfulness. And so I reflect on being thankful for what I have.
Okay, that's fair.
That makes sense.
So
That's
for me, it's just taking that step back to realize what I'm celebrating, and I don't feel like I took that moment to think about what I'm celebrating, because I will say that I don't want to call it ignorant, but I'm one of them people that, like, I'm just kind of in the corner. Yes, I know what's going on, or yes, I know, but I also,
The truth of the matter is you don't know what you know
Yeah.
until you know
You
it.
know it.
And
Nobody
so,
put baby in the corner.
oh
I'm
my,
in the corner
but
today.
I'm saying I put myself in the corner. I put myself in that predicament where I don't always like. I'm an overthinker, so I'm always overthinking every single thing, especially when it comes to the Black community, because my worst fear is using, like people will say you're using your Blackness as a weapon. Well, I feel like I'm going to use my Blackness as a weapon when it's time to be used, right? Mm-hmm. And so if in that moment that I want to use it the right way, because I'm not about to cry wolf. Mm. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times, not a lot of times, because that's a lie. I feel like sometimes it's used crying wolf. And that's why it becomes okay, just another person complaining, just another Black person complaining. Oh, boo, if I say something, it means something.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
And I know she about to say something, so I'm just waiting.
I would say, like, I definitely understand what you're saying, but I don't think that, just the last part, I don't think that it matters if Black people were crying wolf or not. People who don't want the powers at be want it to be, they're going to put it out there that it's crying wolf, whether it is or not, because they want us to have that stigma. They want us to have this. They're like, oh, see, this is what I told you. That was just an excuse. That's not.
And then for me, I don't allow myself to do that. When I say I overthink,
how many white tears we had that ain't real?
What?
But they
exactly.
Still, but I'm saying,
exactly. But
I
don't allow myself to be swayed by tears.
No, I know you don't. But I'm saying, like you said, you want people to be able to listen.
For me, I take a step back. I want to hear the entirety of a thing. I'm going, if it matters to me, I'm going to look it up. And a lot of times it matters to me, and I look at the whole of the situation. And a lot of the things that I feel for actually mean something. It's the moments where it don't mean anything and they're trying to make it like, we have people out there that are us that will try to make it a moment.
Oh, I know.
And it don't need to be a moment.
I know.
And now that's just adding to the stigma. You know what I'm saying? Stop adding. If we want to be as a people, I want us to be taken serious. I want us to be taken serious, not only by everyone, but within ourselves too. Because, we're going to, as a Black people, a lot of times they'll come and be like, oh, well, I believe this because this and this happened. I believe that because this and this happened. That's ignorance. But I feel like when they're doing the crying wolf, you're feeding into that. I don't like to feed into the moment. I want it to be serious, and I want to be taken serious. And in order for me to be taken serious, I'm going to pick my battles. And when I pick my battle, it's going to mean something. It's going to stand for something. I'm not just going to.
I wasn't saying that you personally. I was saying that even though you're saying that it's feeding it, I'm talking about what you were stating as far as the general. Saying that if there's some people, because we all know that do cry wolf. However, I'm saying the powers at be, like, you could come seriously. We know you, so we know that if you're saying it, that you're serious and you're genuine about what you're coming to. But it doesn't matter, like, what those other people are doing. If they choose to want to pick, this is what they believe, that's what they're going to pick. The powers that be, like, they're not going to still not listen to you regardless of how genuine you're being, if they choose to believe that Black people are crying wolf just because the few are doing it. Because, and when I made the comment about the white tears that aren't genuine, the fakeness, they choose to listen to that because even if they know it's not real, because they want to. So it doesn't. So my thing is, no matter what a small percentage of people do, that really, I don't think has a major effect on why they're saying that we're all crying wolf. I think that is because they're choosing to pick that story. So even though we know you're coming genuine, if the powers that be don't give a fuck, they don't give a damn. They're going to say you crying wolf too. But it's not because of somebody else. It's because they're choosing.
But I care about what I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying that I get what you're saying, but for me, I won't allow myself to move in a direction to add to a problem.
I'm not saying you are.
I'm not saying that you're saying that I'm saying how I feel.
So this is one of those moments where y'all go back and forth in a conversation and we never get anywhere. So I'm going to go swing back to Amanda because she said when you were talking earlier, oh, out loud, and she didn't mean to. Did you forget it?
No.
Do you remember what popped up on you?
No, I was also thinking about like Sunday dinners, like another unconscious way that we celebrate that is like it's a gathering. Yes. And we do it, I think we do it monthly, but like just to have that social gathering of is just a way to celebrate and reflect, like Shakira's saying, because it is meaningful to be able to come together as a group and enjoy each other's company, food, Black-owned games,
space.
I'm gonna learn
and
one
all
day.
The things.
One day I will. I swear.
But that's what it was. That's what the other thing.
The thought was.
Yeah.
And so I want to swing it back around. So the question that got y'all to have this conversation was about what are the other things that we do unconsciously, basically. How do we celebrate it without having known that we had celebrated? And I said that you two have likely celebrated it more than you realized. So one thing that Amanda brought up was family reunions. And I think that's one of the original ways where we began to celebrate Emancipation Day or celebrate
unconsciously, very much so,
Juneteenth. And unconsciously is what you mentioned, but it's an unconscious thing we may not have known. But one of those things was that we would come back to certain places attempting to find our family. And so that's how we kind of got into this space of celebrating together and having family reunions. One of the ways in which I'm wondering, because I believe you grew up in the church. I know you grew up in the church, but I'm believing that you grew up in the church too. No? Am I off on that? Okay.
Oh, no, you're not off at all.
So I forget specifically how this one ties in, but watch night, which is one of the things that they do at church.
New Year's Eve.
Just before the year change is over is one way. But then also when they do homecomings at church, right? And so during that, we have people come in and it's either you've moved away and you're coming back to revisit the church, family reunion, or we're honoring a pastor that maybe have passed, or a pastor from another church who we basically relate to, or like our sister churches or brother churches, whatever. And so we have them come in and it's a family celebration, so to speak, right? And then also just homecoming. So I attended a HBCU. I attended specifically Grambling State University. We don't celebrate that in Grambling, and we don't celebrate it in Southern, which is who we play. We celebrate it in New Orleans. And not just the students attending, the city attends this game. And so we all come in and we celebrate together. We may be rivals, but we're celebrating together. And it's an experience to have. And so being able to kind of reach out and have that origin of just reconnecting and getting together, which
Battles
is
of the bands.
which is what we do to kind of be able to celebrate together and have that experience of freedom with each other.
Hell, even PV's homecoming. Like,
okay,
I didn't even go to PV.
Like,
let's.
I think that's the thing. I don't even go there, but I'm here.
I didn't go to PV. People think I've gone to PV because it's like, oh wait, you know this person. Like, oh, I just know a lot of people, but still, it's like when you go,
that is very true for me. I just know a lot of people.
I do.
Like, oh, we're about to have a party with
my
50
friend
people.
coming over. Who the fuck?
And it could be an array. There are different groups, and hey, I try to bring them together sometimes. But just having that whole piece of like seeing people that you haven't seen in forever is necessary, and it's healing, and it's beneficial, and it's so much fun to like throw your arms around a person that you might not have spoken to in years.
Yeah.
So
I'm letting y'all heifers know. Y'all try not to speak to me in years.
we know.
Hey, I'm speaking.
We know.
I'm trying to move out the state. She told me no. How you gonna tell me where I can move?
That's all right. I won't tell y'all St. Phoenix.
Oh Lordy. So previously, how do you think that it was celebrated coming out of the gate? So I acknowledge that I'm free. Not quite sure what I'm supposed to do with that information. Do I celebrate being free? We Black, so we celebrate everything. We celebrate everything. We make songs for everything.
I think they probably broke out him during that time. Like, but I think that the celebration.
Do you think it looked different?
I think it looked different, right? I think it looked different. Like, I think they might have initially like, woo, like we're free, like, right? Mm-hmm. But then after that, I think they like, especially the ones that made the conscious decision to like let me go. Yeah, I think they celebrated, like truly celebrated, like maybe after, like picked a day, like once they settled into where they were and like reflecting back on that day. I think they may have celebrated it then versus immediately leaving. I think it may have been a quick. I definitely just thinking. May have been a quick because during that time you still had like if you choose to leave or even if you choose to stay, you have to get on your shit because there's still people out there that didn't want you to be free. Right. Like so now I'm fighting to be in this space. Mm-hmm. So it was more so I got to get in this grind to get to where I need to be, and then now that I'm established, I'm free. Like you know what I'm saying? Like let's like as a family like celebrating like I'm free. We here. We done this shit.
I think celebrations look like church because Black people love them some church. It's true. Or maybe, I mean, there looks like a change in this particular day and age, but starting out, Black people love them some church. Mm-hmm. So it definitely looked like church. It looked like being practices of gratefulness. There was ceremonies, of course, to kind of commemorate being free. Mm-hmm. And then because we are who we are, there was games, there was food, there was fun. So we about to play some games. We about to put on some music. We gonna laugh, sing, and dance. Ew. Gross. She said we're going to excommunicate that part. We ain't doing that. Yeah. And so I think that's how that looked then. And it might look different in different parts of the world. Just like it traveled different parts at different times. I think the celebration of Juneteenth looked different in different places. I don't ever recall there being a celebration where I'm from of Juneteenth. Can y'all share with the people how do we celebrate Juneteenth currently? I'm so joking.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna answer that, but I just had to, I had the distraction for a second. Can I just say my distraction? My baby placed.
She did.
Oh my God! So I was excited. She sent me a picture of her medal.
Solo.
Yeah, solo.
Nice.
She placed.
Awesome.
I'm so happy for my baby. Okay. All right. Now the question is
seafood ball,
for
liquor, games, music.
Just don't let Candy make y'all a drink.
No, I make the best drinks ever.
No.
So if you're looking,
it's a party rule for us.
No,
right?
Don't let Candy make your drink. If you're looking to have a good
drink.
time and be relaxed, I make the best drinks.
And we tell
you're gonna be real relaxed.
Right.
Have you ever been so relaxed you went to sleep, or so relaxed you passed out? Because that's what she referring to.
So relaxed you threw up on a wall
and then passed out.
That's the type of vibe she giving.
We're getting in touch with our ancestors being free.
I'm not getting in touch with no ancestor passed out.
Girl, wait, because if that's, I'm not trying to get in touch with them like that. I'm not trying to see them today.
And we warn everyone. Everyone that comes around, we warn them.
First of all, that's not the topic of right now. We're discussing how we celebrate Juneteenth.
Okay,
like y'all
we
get sidetracked.
People to the Juneteenth celebration.
We're not bringing them. You got it. No, we're not telling them that.
Let her make the drink. Okay. What does she do? Make the drink. Wait, and then when she get drunk on Juneteenth, she want everybody kids to stay.
Yeah, she be like, y'all can sleep here.
It's not that I want them to stay. I just don't care.
No, but it's not just Candy. It's a family thing. Like I realized that because at her dad's party there was some moonshine that was going around, and I was like,
but that good moonshine was so good.
Bruh,
look, problems.
I had to drive back I had to drive back to New Orleans. I couldn't fool around
I just
that
knew you was
moonshine.
about to say to the New Orleans.
To the New Orleans,
just knew you
baby.
was
I
about to
couldn't
say
do
that.
it. I couldn't. I was like,
Nah, I wasn't playing with y'all with that moonshine.
No.
Then Taupe with the
I was
moonshine
just
and the
sipping.
wine. I was
Right.
like, girl, first of all,
And
do
the tequila
you have
and the
2
Hennessy.
cups?
right, double
Yeah.
fisted.
I was like, ma'am, I don't need 2 cups. I don't want to
No.
try your drink. So I was like, you should try this. I'm good.
No,
See?
I am good.
Don't let Toby make your drinks.
no, Topi didn't make
Topi-
that was made for her.
And you probably
you
made it
probably
for.
made
No,
I
that was
didn't make
a
it.
bartender.
Oh.
There was
Oh, yeah,
bartender.
yeah.
Was that
there
your
were
uncle
bartenders.
that made it. See, family.
When we talk about that Mississippi water, we got to add that part in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen.
What? But that moonshine was sweet. Y'all should have had it.
I had a sip. And I
Look,
was
that's just
no.
like, I don't think the pickle moonshine is strong at all.
Oh,
No,
my.
that
Yeah,
was
you just be
poisonous.
drunk. No,
Poison
this
pickles
one
and
right here
peaches.
saying that the pickle moonshine
Y'all.
ain't strong at all. She was eating the pickle moonshines, i.e. on Juneteenth, and she was like, "These are good. They're not that strong." Wait, I think
Take
I
it back.
feel it. Like,
But she love them, though.
She do.
My favorite thing. But yeah.
So I think also we previously did shirts and things like that during this time. So we
Yes.
try and also find
Never
a way.
got my shirt.
Oh gosh.
we're there.
Candy
again.
was the last one to
I think
get
it's still
her
in
shirt
I gotta
made.
find it, girl. It's somewhere in my house.
Just wanted to put that out
So
there.
My bad.
do y'all have any new ideas about ways in which you will want to celebrate Juneteenth?
I just wanted
I
to
want to
not
go
be
to a
commercialized.
parade. You know, out in LaPorte they do a parade, so I would love to go to the Juneteenth parade.
Like a trail ride. I've never done a trail ride. Living here in Texas,
I don't even know what that is.
So
for
it's
real.
Do you know how you saw
country.
the person on the horse when we went down Cullen?
Yes.
The black person on the horse?
Yeah.
They do trail rides over there.
Yeah.
They get on the horse, they get their wagon.
And
And
they-
it's liquor,
some-
music, and a good
yeah,
time.
and they be barbecuing. Everything, girl.
Country.
We'll show you.
So
I
country.
just want to experience it.
So
I've never done
country.
it here in Texas, and I've always
Yeah.
heard about it. And I have a line sister that's
Yeah.
like that used to be in it for real.
And it means
Yeah.
something if
Don't get me wrong, I wanna learn how
a
to ride a
man
horse.
invites you to a trail ride. It means something.
Does
What
it?
is supposed to
Yeah.
mean?
What does it mean?
It means you
about to
married
get a
now.
ride?
You married now.
That too.
All right.
Almost made it through that.
Look, almost.
Y'all.
Wait, what happened?
I
They
said
talk
that-
about what a ride, getting a ride
I asked
to a
if it
trail
means
ride
that.
means.
That's all.
You know,
Or it used to.
just when
you
I
know,
think.
back in my younger days, it meant something if a guy was in a trail ride and he invites you.
What it that meant what I said?
I mean,
No, girl, but I mean that happened too.
Pickle. Back to me. I have some ideas about ways that we should try and or some things that we should incorporate
what
into
should we
our
do?
upcoming Juneteenth
Oh, we should
celebration.
educate each
Tom,
other
what should we do?
I
in a
think
fun way, though. Like,
you know, okay, this could be a part of that. So I think that we could do like a poetry show. Or not a poetry show, but more like an open mic. So we could do music
perform?
or
Yeah, as long as you
poems.
perform,
That's
I'll
not
be
what I'm
there.
saying. I'm
I
not
will-
saying
if you
I'm
perform,
performing.
I'll be there.
I think that everybody should, but I don't think that it has to be something that you create. It could be
Okay.
something that you're reading, something that was written by someone else, music by somebody else that's based on
As long as
what
we
we're
open-
celebrating for that day, freedom, right?
As long as we open with this, every voice says.
Possibly.
You gotta,
maybe not.
gotta
We
start
might remix it.
That's it. I was about to start
Oh.
beating. No, can't be no. I was like, as I say, I'm about to start beating, but we can't do that. Okay, I think that's very, very.
I also think that we could probably educate the children and then go to skating ring.
Oh,
Make sure
yeah.
the kids know why we going to skating ring, and then go to the skating ring, have a good black old time
Yeah,
at the skating
like
ring.
I like that.
I wish-
I like that.
We can have some good old seafood, soul food,
Yes, seafood.
and seafood
We did
up
that,
in the
though.
skating rink.
Oh, in the skating
yeah,
rink.
in
Oh,
the
that would
skating
be
rink. Like
great.
make it a real black event.
Oh, that's first of all, that sounds great.
Especially have Unc outside in his Jesus
Grilling,
sandals.
Baby, grilling on the hitch.
and then past him grilling, we got my cousin over there making this crawfish.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to have, okay?
Oh, and then we can all have our little 80s funk on.
What?
Lord.
Like the theme.
Haven't we
like
did the
Juneteenth
80s
colors.
things
Done
to
the
the skating
80s.
ring before?
No,
We
we
have.
had neon.
We had the neon though. It was neon.
I didn't think it was
80s.
neon. I thought it was 70s.
No,
was
yeah,
I was
that's
wearing
70s.
neon,
No,
but I thought it
70s.
was for
No,
a
we did
70s
80s.
celebration.
No, we did 80s. So we did. Wait, what did we do? We did 80s.
The Venus was 70s, so y'all came with the bell bottoms, and you
I wore the
Oh.
same thing
you
both
had your
times.
ponytail to the
I didn't have no
side.
bell bottoms on. I had on 80s.
I had on
came
bell
with her
bottoms.
Bell bottoms.
Women-
You had.
I
your
had on
side
bell bottoms.
ponytail.
You had on a side ponytail and knee
And your
thingies,
leg
or the
arm
legs.
warmers. Was
Either
it leg warmers or arm? Oh, that's 80s.
either her legs or her
It was
arms was
80s.
on.
I'm about to
It
say
was
that because you was like, because you said we're doing 80s again because she had the tie dye shirt on.
Yep.
both
Yeah, so-
times. So it really didn't matter whether it
So
was 80s
I'm about
or
to say,
70s.
don't make me think
That's
I'm
what I was
confused
wearing.
because my shirt said 80s for the thing. I was like, I know I'm not fucking tripping.
So-
So yeah, no, so it was 80s.
Before we
80s
jet
for both.
out, I'm going to share with our listening audience some ways that we or they could practice Juneteenth or celebrate, not practice, but celebrate and commemorate Juneteenth as it is coming up or just passed. So some ways in which you guys can get out there and celebrate Juneteenth is by, if you are in Houston, you can attend the Black Market's 4th annual Juneteenth celebration.
Yep.
This is hosted at an art gallery, either downtown or in Midtown. I'm not quite sure. So I'm gonna leave it up to y'all to find your Googles, to use your Googles. You can go to Houston Museum of African American Culture. You can support Black-owned business or support your local Black-owned restaurant, which if you're in Houston, you have a lot to choose from. Use your Googles. Use your Googles.
Right.
You can volunteer with an organization that supports the community. You can talk with your children about it and make sure that they're educated about what this is and why we want to celebrate it, and hopefully pass on that tradition if it's one that you start. You can visit Emancipation Park. That was something that I meant
That was
to
fun.
mention
I
as
did
well.
that last year. It was
Yeah.
so much fun.
So Emancipation Park is a big thing when we talk about Juneteenth
Ward.
because it was bought by newly enslaved people, and it was bought for the purpose of celebrating Juneteenth. So they couldn't keep it open year round, but during Juneteenth, again, family reunion, they made sure that it was open so that they could have people come in and celebrate and probably look for their family, y'all. And so, or at least feel like family together.
It's a whole
And
vibe.
so,
It
you've
really
been?
is. It was, so we went, well, I went with work because I had to go for work. But it literally, there was like Kool and the Gang, the Isley Brothers, people had their
nice.
lawn chairs. It was really,
There was a
really nice.
concert?
It was a concert.
Yee, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And
I
it
love to
lasted
hear.
all day. So it went from like, I would say we got there around 11 and it went into the night. And it was so much fun.
Well, I'm
you
gonna be
had
checking
like
for
black
it this-
vendors, you had waist beads, t-shirts, people were selling everything,
Yes.
food. So please check it out if you are here in Houston. It's a great time.
Yes, I'm probably checking it out this year. And very lastly, if you are a spiritual person, it's a time where we celebrate and we commemorate freedom. Manifest you some freedom, whatever that means to you. However, that
free like
reaches
sunflower.
you, manifest you some freedom. So I just want to thank our listening audience for being here with us and listening and following and joining us and being a part of this tribe, because goodness, we could be something else. Thank you guys.
Yes, y'all
and there they go again. I'm Tom.
I'm Amanda.
Candy.
Shakira.
And we're Tribe Foolery. Thank you guys. Happy Juneteenth.
Yes.
Instagram.
My name, yeah, Eli. She said she need me like heartbeat. Drive me